Thank you so much for joining us today. We have the unique opportunity to sit down with Jaime Jones, a VP of One-Way Operations and Expedited, and Doug Henn, Senior Director of Cross-Border and Temperature-Controlled Sales, both from Werner. Thank you both so much for joining us today.
Thank you for
Um,
having us. It's our pleasure.
Anytime. I always love chatting with the Werner folks. Before we get too far into kind of Werner premium services and some of what we're talking about today, let's get some background on both of you and how you got started with Werner. Doug, we'll start with you.
Yeah, well, thank you for having us. We really appreciate you having us on. I started Werner a little over 30 years ago. My first, 15, 16 years was in operations, and then I transitioned to business development / sales, and have been in that role for the last, 15, 16 years as well. So it's been a pleasure, and again, thank you for having us on.
Anytime. Jaime, what about you? How did you get started at Werner?
Yeah, so I came to Werner about 26 years ago now. I started right after I graduated college and started, just like Doug, in some operational roles through our one-way department here at Werner Enterprises. And about 10 years ago, I moved into my current role where I'm the vice president of one-way operations and expedited, which really encompasses driver management, load planning, customer service functions, and overall optimization of our one-way fleet.
I love that you both have that. Kind of speaks volume to, I'm sure, what we'll cover a little bit today about the Werner way of, you guys have all started in operations and then stayed with the company and grown into obviously what we know today. For those that are kind of unfamiliar, because I know Werner has many services that you guys offer, what exactly is Werner Premium Services and why is it a little bit different than the traditional freight or expedited shipping options? Jaime, we'll start with you.
Yeah, sure. So Werner Premium Services is really our go-to-market strategy to solve some of our more custom critical required customer shipments that are out there. It's really surrounds the operation itself in terms of being able to deal with some harder to deal with freight, stuff that's more custom critical, stuff that has higher visibility. Maybe that's higher cargo, could be some time sensitive freight. And it's really around deriving a solution to support that opportunity and make sure we execute towards our customers' requirements and expectations.
So, Doug, why is it a little bit different than your traditional expedited shipping? So, obviously, you work in temperature controlled, and so you know how important those, basically those can't miss windows are. Because if you miss something, it could shut an entire line down, or those temperature sensitive items tend to be a little bit more critical. Why is the Werner Premium Service just a little bit different when it comes to expedites?
Well, I think it's that specialized solution, right? And to Jamie's point, it's that mission critical freight where we create specialized strict protocols to manage that business, right? It is really the precision, the visibility, the security, the proactive communication when we're moving that freight, right? So it comes with, you know, elevated compliance with our GDP and our TAPA 2 compliance certification. So it's that next level of care.
That next level of care, I think, is something that's really important, especially in that temperature controlled freight. Because, like I was saying, that typically tends to be a lot of your healthcare supply chain and your food, and a lot of those things that ultimately do end up more often than not in the consumer's hands, and they kind of you need the consumers, myself included, like to know that there's been a chain or kind of a paper trail or just kind of that chain of custody hasn't been broken, and you know that, okay, this ice cream never melted and then refroze, because that does happen. And while it's not the end of the world, it doesn't taste as good, if I may be so bold as to say that your the product quality is not always the best. So one of the things that I do like that you guys have over there at in the premium services is that It is basically the most critical freight, like we were saying. It's the expedited option. It's something that it needs to get there quickly. It needs to be there on time, intact, no damages, but ultimately it needs to be there safely as well. When you guys take on the critical freight in a more safe way, what are some of those safeguards that you put in place to make sure that these high value or these sensitive shipments are getting there safely and on time? Doug, we'll start with you this time.
Yeah, I think it's really sitting down with the customer upfront, right? Because each opportunity is a little bit different, right? What and you had mentioned ice cream, we deal with that as well as pharmaceuticals. So each one of those opportunities are a little bit different. And it's really sitting down with the customer and understanding the client's agreement and what is required in terms of processes, right? So once we understand that, we set up protocols and we train our staff, internal staff, and our drivers accordingly. And I think that, I had mentioned before that TAPA 2 and that GDP certification that we have earned, right? We set those protocols up to help manage our staff internally and our drivers and all the inner workings, so we have that chain of command that you had referred to.
So, Jamie, I'm curious, have you guys ever come across, because I would like to think that from, ice cream shipper to ice cream ship, a lot of the processes and everything are similar from customer to customer, but have you ever come across some that you're like, this is either a little bit extreme, or we've never really had this before, but we can still do it. Just give us a second to figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, there is a lot of similarities inside verticals, but you do have differences based on some of the protocols and processes that the individual customers have themselves. So, to Doug's point, we sit down with the customer, try to understand how their processes work, and then apply those processes to our strategy around our solution. And it really starts with the driver, of course. We vet our drivers, in some of this more harder to do, more difficult freight in this Werner premium service environment, go through additional background checks just to make sure we got the right drivers with the right experience for the solution. Then it comes down to equipment, having the right equipment and making sure the equipment is spec'd to the customer's needs, because you will find that customer to customer where there's some different spec requirements to help support their need and their processes inside their supply chain. And then to Doug's point earlier, right, it really comes down to building the team around that solution to operate it on a day-to-day basis. And one of the big factors I think we do a really nice job of is building contingency plans, because inevitably something's going to go wrong, right? Whether it's a maintenance event with the equipment, or a driver has an emergency, or an hours of service thing where we can no longer drive, we've got strong contingency plans built again around our customers' needs and processes. And I think we do a really nice job of staffing around those contingency plans and making sure we, again, deliver the customer service that our customers are asking for.
So that being said, when it comes to those customized offerings, what industries do you see as really taking advantage of those customized offerings and not necessarily just kind of taking an out of the box or a one-off package? Which ones do you see really relying heavily on those customizations, Jamie?
Yeah, so Doug referenced the certifications earlier, the GDP and the TAPA certifications. And a lot of that's predicated around the pharma vertical or pharma industries. And we've penetrated those verticals pretty nicely over the last couple of years. And part of that had to do with our acquisition of Baylor Trucking out in Milan, Indiana. And they had some protocols and some business already in that vertical. So it helped us organizationally learn how to work inside of that space. But you also see some of those unique solutions and requirements in the high-end tech space, the animal health space, a lot of high value commodities. Think of, Apple iPhones, or, any type of electronics where obviously there's some high cargo value there that, again, you've got to build some processes and strategies around making sure the cargo is secure and there's no potential issue for theft or damage to that product.
So, out of curiosity, Doug, are there any industries that have, because obviously we know that like the tech industry is really going to need it in those high value items. Are there any industries that you've seen take advantage of the customized services that just kind of made you at first go, huh? Well, I guess they do have a demand for it. Kind of one of those that you're like, this wasn't our original intention, but we're not mad that they're here. It's just kind of caught us off guard.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. That's a good question. I think the first ones that come to mind are the OEMs, right? They have that strict delivery process to make sure that they don't see any delay in production. And we also have seen it in the food world that goes for further processing, right? So it's sequence, right? It's got to fall in line. It's got to be delivered within a certain window. So they take advantage of that, and our team is prepared to do it because, the load value probably isn't like a pharma load or a high tech load, but at the same time, if you stop production, it has some of the same effects. So some of those folks really take advantage of it.
The OEMs, it surprises me for some reason, but it makes perfect sense once you say it because, they are running on that just in time inventory and, they can't afford to shut a plant down for a day while you wait for a bunch of bumpers to arrive. I don't know if that's how bumpers arrive in spirit of full disclosure. I assume they come on a truck, but I could be wrong. But you can't sit around and just have everyone wait because they are under such tight deadlines and such tight turnarounds. But for one, like the food makes sense because it's perishable, et cetera. But the OEMs, that one's surprising, but it makes sense. Hmm.
Yeah, definitely.
So, what are a few examples? Doug, I'll start with you, but don't worry, Jamie, you're not getting out of this one either. What are some examples of some customers that you guys have had? You don't have to name names, you can just allude to them. That really kind of have taken advantage of this service and made a huge improvement in their supply chain, whether it's, more on-time deliveries, less outages, less like manufacturing lines down. What are some of those huge success stories that you've had?
Well, since I have a dotted line to Mexico, I think I'll refer to that. So we have some customers out of Mexico that really need the unique service. It's high value, it's high tech. They need that handoff, whether it's with in Mexico or at the border or with customs, and then transitioning that to the US. And that's a unique process, and not everybody can do that. We do it every day. We're really good at it. I feel like Jamie and his team just knock it out of the park when it comes to that because it's seamless every day.
That's honestly the best flex you could have of like, "Oh, we make getting things from Mexico and arriving on time easy." Well, flawless for you. It might not be easy, but it arrives with no extra issues for you. Jamie, what are some of the wins that you guys have seen from your customers?
Yeah. So again, without naming clients, this kind of falls into the tech space, if you will. So think about the back room where all your computer servers are sitting, right? Don't think too much about it, but once you start moving that freight, there's a lot of custom requirements that are needed to be able to freight all the way down to, again, starting with the driver. We've got to have background checks on the driver. The transit is all team like transit, which is a just in time type of operation. The equipment requires air ride spec equipment, and we've got to have certain cargo security protocols in place, including things like seal locks, 5-minute updates on transit, and things of that nature. So that's all in one operation that we've customized a solution for, and moving quite a bit of freight for that particular customer.
Those, like you said, are things that you don't think about because I just like if I need a computer part, I go to the computer store and it's at the computer store. We live 30 minutes away from one that has endless graphics cards and motherboards and processors and everything that you ever needed. But I did the thing that consumers do where you forget how it gets there. And turns out you do need to have a bunch of extra things on hand because those are some high value stolen cargo theft items. But that's insane that you guys were able to kind of fit all those extra requirements because that's more than just like, oh, it needs to stay at a certain temperature or oh, it needs to get there by Tuesday. It's like, no, it needs to like we need to know where it is every second of the day. And that's really cool that you guys were able to build that solution for them.
Yeah, and just to layer on top of that, so think about the world we live in and the rapid rise of AI. I know AI has been around for a long time, but the rapid rise just recently. So think about the computing capabilities that requires and the servers that are moving, and it's a pretty intense vertical and industry right now in terms of, building up those platforms to be able to do that computing work for all the AI we're leveraging today.
That is a huge component is that infrastructure part behind it. Out of curiosity, you guys have so we've talked a lot about, like, the expedited, shipping via truck or however we wanna expedite it, but you guys have also had kind of that multimodal part step in. What does that look like for, kind of the flexibility in a customer supply chain when they have the option between, over the road or, intermodal or any way that they can get there? Jamie, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I think that's, part of the uniqueness and benefit of Werner is we are a wide portfolio of offerings, right? And even though we're segmented inside of what we do from a capacity offering standpoint, we all work together very closely to bring solutions to the table. To your point, multimodally, right? And in some cases, it could be a Werner truck up and hauling the first segment to a rail location and using rail to do a middle or beginning mile of that particular load and finishing it with, again, a Werner truck to go to final delivery. We've also got a lot of third party capacity that we've vetted out that when the opportunity presents itself and the customer's comfortable with us being able to augment asset capacity with third party capacity, we bring that to the table from a solution standpoint as well.
Doug, I feel like that has to be kind of nice to walk up to your customers and say, "Hey, we've done all of this great work for you. Let's kind of expand the bit. Let's expand our relationship. Let's say, hey, we are a valued partner of you. We want to move forward with you. We want to continue doing business with you. We've done great in the past. Hey, look, we've got a new solution that could actually improve." Because I feel like over time, you kind of get a feel for your customer supply chain, where those bottlenecks are, and then you can come to them with the solution and say, "Hey, actually, we think we found a way to make it better." Have you guys seen a lot of traction in that area as well?
And we have. Yeah. That's definitely a good question. On the sales side, and that's the unique thing about being at Werner, and Jamie alluded to it, we have a variety of solutions and not always one size fits all. Sometimes we have to drive the cost out. We have ways to do that. We have ways to flex up when customers have that unique spike, whether it's in the spring, fall, or summer. We have that way to flex with the customer. Adaptability is huge here at Werner. Let's adapt to the customer and create that solution. And Werner Premium Services is a big part of that.
So, as we kind of look to the future, as we've said, AI is coming in, doing all of its thing, but ultimately in the future, supply chains in 5 years, I think will look a little bit different than how they look right now. But as we kind of grow and get to that future look or that future perspective, how do you see the demand for these premium services changing? Do you see it increasing? Do you see it staying the same? Or do you see it maybe becoming something different altogether? Doug, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I think supply chains will continue to get more complex, right? Where the demand for visibility and security continues to grow. It's in the news all the time. Where security is top for everybody, and there's a lot of issues out there that we deal with, and I think that demand for this service will continue to grow as customers have that need for security and visibility of their freight.
Jaime, what do you think that the future of supply chains will look like in regards to premium services like this?
Yeah, I mean, we looked at the future when we built out that program, thinking it's going to be a bigger presence inside of our industry. Think about the consumer today, right? It's both speed and quality, not just speed or quality, right? And we have to be able to deliver our end of the bargain from the supply chain side of being able to do both, right? Get it to the consumer as quickly as they're demanding it, as well as making sure, to your point, the ice cream hasn't melted on its way and it still tastes good when it hits your table to be eaten, right? So there is a flight to both speed and quality, and we think Werner Premium Services and our ability to customize variable solutions and back it with the right kind of capacity and the right processes to support it puts us a leg ahead.
Go on top of that, risk mitigation is number one with customers, right? So whenever I'm out there talking with customers, they're all about how we can mitigate the risk and how we can mitigate the risk before it affects their operation.
That is a huge, huge thing that I think will continue to play a massive role in supply chains as we move forward, whether that's a risk mitigation from a cargo theft or a fraud or a product loss and you name it. That is a huge strategy that I think will continue to be something move forward. And we'll continue to see it for a lot of years, in my opinion. So that being said, we are almost out of time today. But before we let you guys go, if anyone has any questions about, maybe how they can take advantage of Warner Premium Services, or even if it's the right step for them to take, or pretty much anything we've talked about today, where can they best find you guys outside the show? Jaime, we'll start with you.
Yeah, you can find us at our website at www.warner.com or any of our social media outlets that are available on the various modes out there.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. I had an absolute blast talking to you, and we'll see you guys next time.